Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I know we've had 2 webinars in September already, so we really appreciate you are here again to improve your business, your shop, and continue to work through all of the hard things that you have as a business owner. And this is such a awesome topic, hiring. I think everyone knows that we are in a technician shortage. It is the buzz around town. And so we're really excited to talk about this with our guest speakers, Bill and Sara. Before I do that, I want to mention that this session is being recorded. And so if you have to drop or whatever the case may be, your bandwidth or your Wi-Fi is not working, you will get this recording afterwards. I also want to say that while you are off camera and mute, we want to make it as interactive as possible. We find that you guys get the most out of these when you do engage with us in the chat function and the Q&A. So please feel free at any point to put your comments, your opinions in the chat function or the Q&A. If it is a question, I will do my best to pose that question to Bill and Sara. If we don't get to it during the presentation, because they have a lot of awesome content to cover today, I will get to it afterwards in the Q&A section. As always, we do a survey after all of our webinars, so please do sign or fill that out. I will send you a $20 Amazon gift card, most likely no later than Monday. And so with that, I'm going to pass this off over to Bill and Sara, our guest speakers today. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Amber.
Sara, you ready to get started?
Let's get started.
So this is a quote from Henry Ford that I find really interesting, and I think it really applies to what we're going to talk about today. So, Henry Ford said that coming together is a beginning and keeping together is progress and working together is success. And that's really what we want to accomplish when we hire somebody, right? It's about the beginning is meeting them and learning things about them and allowing them to learn things about us and being able to stay together. That's, man, that can be tough, right? We're all different. We all have different approaches to things or different ideas. And so then working together is success. And what does working together look like? The longevity of what this relationship is going to be like. So I think that just kind of sets the stage for what hiring and having employees is like today.
And it's in doing this webinar, it's kind of cool because over, I'd say the past 6 months, if not longer, we started offering a service to our clients where we help out with a lot of the hiring, where we're actually helping them create their job ads and doing the posting and going through resumes and doing preliminary interviews. So Bill and I have been actively involved in this process for the past couple of months now. And so being able to come on and talk about our experiences, things that are working, and hopefully you guys get some awesome ideas out of this to help you out in the hiring process as well. So we're not just here talking about something that we don't actually do. We've been pretty involved in hiring, and we've learned quite a lot, I think, over the past couple of months. So
yeah, that's really, it's important I think, to emphasize that you can't do what you've always done, number one. Number two, it's changing so quickly. I mean, even in that 6 months since we've started offering our hiring management program for shops, I've recognized that there are things that are different that we do now that are different than we did when we started, or the reactions we're getting from people are different. So it is, it's like changing so quickly that you really got to stay abreast of it. So, here's
open
the
to
deal,
that.
right? Go ahead.
And just be open to that, to being open to doing the process differently than you've done before. If that means texting somebody instead of calling them, because we've found that works 9 out of 10 times better to get a response to send a text message than to actually pick up the phone and call them. So just kind of having that open mindset of trying something that might be a little bit different than the way we've always done it.
So this is really what it's all about. It's all the help wanted signs out there. Just like Amber mentioned, we all hear constantly about the technician shortage. There's honestly just a shortage in the workforce, whether it's technicians or anything else. I mean, if you're trying to find people to fill any slot in your business, it's just difficult to do today. So, whoops, wrong way. So, you have a need. I want to start with just talking for a few minutes, just a little bit about why do people leave? Because the reality is, a lot of times the reason we have a need is somebody's left. There's now an open position. There's work that needs to be done that we don't have that person there to do that work anymore. So I think it's worth spending just a little bit of time to think about why people leave. And for me, it's always, I look at it like when a leader fails, people will quit. And I think that's number one, that's really important. People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. They quit the people that they're working for. They quit the people that they report to that has the oversight or the management. And so as bosses, as employers, we're all leaders. And so for me, this really breaks down to four real simple things. People will quit when they feel devalued. People want to be appreciated. They want to know that the effort that they make and the time that they put into something is appreciated. So if you're not making sure people feel appreciated for the talent they bring to your organization, they're going to quit. They're going to leave. They might also quit if you're untrustworthy. Now, I'm not talking about you lie or you steal, or I'm just talking about the real simple, you failed to do the things you said you were going to do. Because when you fail to do the things you said you were going to do, now I can't trust you. And so it's just even the simplest thing, like the employee that wants to talk to you at 10 o'clock in the morning and you don't have time, and you say, I can't right now, but I will later today. I'll have time at 3 o'clock. And the day ends and everybody goes home and you still you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So don't allow that to be something that would, alienate an employee or have them start thinking about looking for another job. Incompetence is another one. And the incompetence that I'm talking about is not the employee's incompetence, because if they were incompetent, you would have never hired them. I'm talking about our incompetence as leaders. And what I mean by that is, if it's your job to tell somebody to do a job, you should know what that job is. That's incompetence. If you can't tell them what their job is, if they don't feel like they know what's expected of them in that job, that's incompetence. And then the last one is really insecure. It's your insecurity. And what I mean by that is, it's your insecurity of letting go of things. It's your resistance to delegating things. What I want you to think about is the reason you hire people, number one, is to grow. That's the reason you hire people, because your company should be growing. And if you're so insecure in the things that you do, your tasks and your responsibilities, that you won't delegate them, then people feel like, why am I here? If I'm not here to help you, if I'm not here to learn, if I'm not here to grow myself personally. So think about that. Don't be the employer, don't be the boss that's not making sure their people are appreciated. Don't be untrustworthy. Don't have that insecurity. Be willing to delegate. Sarah, why do you leave jobs?
Yeah, as a true millennial, I've left a lot of jobs. I have a bit of experience here. And I think it's really important that this webinar is on hiring, but if you're going to take the amount of time it takes and the investment it takes to hire that right person, you really want to make sure you keep that right person, so you're not doing this again in a month or two down the road. I've left jobs because coworkers were being treated poorly. Even though I was being treated well, I wasn't going to work somewhere where other people were being treated poorly. I've left because I just didn't feel like I was being heard. You have insecure on here as the employer side, but also as an employee. I've thought I was doing really poor at a job. Come to find out, the boss thought I was doing great, but never communicated that to me. So I became my own worst enemy and was like, oh, well, they never tell me, I must just be doing awful. They're probably looking to replace me when that wasn't the situation at all. So communication is huge in keeping somebody. The job I stayed at the longest, I worked for somebody who constantly would say, thank you for being here today. Thank you for doing your job. I appreciate you so much. We couldn't run this place without you. Was open to hearing ideas, was open to like trying new things, and had great communication with the whole team. We were all on the same page. We're all on the same team. So those are the things that definitely kept me at a job, and some things that have made me leave jobs. So, and then flexibility is another thing, but.
So Sarah, what do you see as the challenges in hiring today? Can
Where
we
do you
just
want to start?
where do you want? Well, here, I'm going to give you my view of this. My view of this is that part of the problem that we have is we're not willing to accept people that are different than us. We kind of approach this whole hiring thing as, well, I want to hire somebody that will work just as hard as I work. I want to hire somebody that's, as smart as I am, that knows this job as well as I know this job. And the reality is that's probably not going to happen, right? And it's not, I think it's important for us to understand that different isn't wrong. It's just different. It's okay that these people are different. They might have a different approach to how they get the work done, but the end result is the same.
Yeah, I think it's, you don't want to hire somebody who's just like you. You want to hire somebody who's going to complement you, who's going to be able to have strengths where maybe you don't. And, who's going to be that person that could do things that maybe are the things you don't want to do, or your current employees aren't so good at, that they balance each other and complement each other. So if you just are going out to hire and you're looking at, well, I want to hire a whole team of people exactly like me, that's probably not going to work so well. You need to get the balance of strengths in there.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that employees are looking for today, Sarah?
Definitely transparency. They want to be involved. They want to know what's going on. They want to contribute to something that matters. They want to do meaningful work. They want to feel like they've made a difference. Flexibility for sure. Family is very important. If they need to take off to go to a doctor's appointment, or they need to leave a little early to go to a kid's event, that's a huge thing that employees are looking for. Or even just flexibility in, I have a friend who just left jobs, and the main thing for her wasn't necessarily the pay for that job. It was the vacation. She negotiated for 5 weeks of vacation. So having the flexibility to do that instead of a higher salary, things like that. Definitely embracing technology. Like I said, we're texting people more than we ever have before. Obviously, we're using lots of technology in this industry. So just making sure that we're taking advantage of that. They're not going to want to go work somewhere that's way behind and doing things like we were doing them 10 years ago.
So how do you feel about that? You mentioned this a little while ago, right? About, wanting that constant reassurance and
instant coaching. That communication piece is so big. Just letting somebody know that, they're appreciated, letting them know they're doing well, that feedback, that recognition. We talk about millennials specifically being the trophy kids who want the gold star at the end of the day. And really, to me, that gold star is a simple thank you. Thank you for coming to work. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Having ideas be listened to. That's I think you have it right here where it says expect. It's not even want their ideas to be listened to. It's an expectation at this point. And then I have on here prioritize safety too. That's something we're seeing huge when we look at Generation Z. That's one of the number one things that they look for in the workplace. I just did an interview with somebody yesterday, and I asked why they were leaving their current job. And that was one of the things. They didn't feel safe. They're working by themselves a lot. And in the evenings, and, she was like, I just don't feel comfortable and I don't feel safe. It's not a safe environment for me. So that's something they're looking for.
So I would tell you that the best people work for someone. And, this is true. The people that we want to hire today are not sitting at home on the couch watching reruns of Archie Bunker. They have jobs, they're working somewhere. So my question is always, if the best people are working, why are they not working for you? Why would they not entertain wanting to be in your company, part of your organization? What is going on?
You just went backwards.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
So, why not for you? Where do you look for them? And when are you looking for them? Those are two really great questions, right? And I think today is so different. We have so many resources available to us that, I can remember many years ago, if you wanted to hire somebody, you put an ad in the newspaper and everybody read if you were interested in finding a job, you read the employment section of the newspaper to see who was looking for help. Well, newspapers don't hardly exist today, so that's not going to work for you. But there's so many other things we can use, right? There's all these job boards and different hiring platforms, and there's social media aspects of it. There's the word of mouth part of it. There's the referrals, and I think the bigger question is, when are you looking for them? My answer to that is, you need to be looking all the time. You should never stop looking, because you don't know when you're going to need somebody. And I think that's part of the problem that a lot of us have with the hiring process is we don't start looking until we have a need. We wait until there's that void or that open position, and we should have already been looking. We should have been building a database of who are people that I would be interested in having work in my company. Where are these people if I should ever need them? How am I going to reach them? Where do I find them? So you got to look everywhere. You got to cast as broad a net as you can, so don't get hooked into one thing. Like, don't just use Indeed. I'm not going to say Indeed doesn't work, or it works well. We also have found that, and Sarah and I were having this conversation the other day, geographically, things are different. We find that there's some areas where you can use Indeed and get great results, and there's other areas where you use Indeed and you don't get results, right? And then, I've also found that. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Using sites like Indeed and ZipRecruiter have a really cool thing for you to use where you can invite people to apply. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of going through resumes and inviting people. Don't just wait for those applications to come. So yeah, when are you looking? All the time, and also be inviting people on those sites. We've had some really good success with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Sarah. I know you've done, just really a great job with that, where, you think that your ad is the best and everybody that might be interested in working for you might find your ad. Maybe they're not. Maybe they just think that they put their ad out there, they put that they're available, they put their resume out there, right, that they're available. But, that's one of the things that Sarah does when she's working in that hiring management program, is she actually goes out and finds people to say, you'd be qualified for this job. You should apply for this job. And she invites them to apply. And we've had some outstanding applicants just through doing that. So that is a great resource as well.
I think when you look at
while you're doing that, I'm going to run this poll because I would love to know where people are putting their ads. So I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm going to launch this one. And obviously there's other options outside of these. And then, are you able to browse resumes on Indeed? I don't know Indeed that well. Sarah, do you know if they're able?
Yeah, you can browse and you can invite people on Indeed, and they'll give you suggestions as well. So I think especially looking at the service advisor position, people who have never been in the automotive world don't really understand what that job is, what that job entails. I found somebody who was a property manager. I have friends who are in property management. I know what that job is. I started out in that world. And so I'm like, I know those people have a lot on their plate. They're doing a lot of multitasking. They're doing some sales, and so I invited somebody who only had property management on their resume to apply for a service advisor position. And she turned out to be fantastic. So it just, again, keeping an open mind and maybe doing things a little bit different than we've always done them, and have open eyes and open ears and looking for somebody that might fit that need.
Yeah, it looked
I'm
like
curious. I see a lot of other coming in. If you guys want to throw in the chat what the other ones are using, I mean, there are a lot of really great options out there. So
I know we talked about Facebook and somebody said Facebook and LinkedIn. I know we talked about that yesterday and you had said you haven't had much success on a Facebook. So I do think, Bill, you mentioned too, it comes down to location, right? It comes down to also if you're using social media, how engaged are those people in your community on those channels too?
Absolutely. And, it was interesting too. I saw Craigslist was on the ad and it had like 0, right, for Craigslist. I think that Craigslist did a pretty good job for a while, and then we didn't get good results. But just recently, I just recently had a shop where they had bad experiences on Craigslist. They were looking for a technician. I said, you got to get your ad on Craigslist. Oh, I'm not going on Craigslist. I've never got anybody good off of Craigslist. I said, but you got to try it. What if the one person we're looking for is only looking at Craigslist? They put the ad on Craigslist. 2 days later, we had an applicant from the Craigslist ad. That was the person that was head and shoulders above every other applicant, and that's the person that got hired. You just don't know.
It's one of the least expensive ones out there. So
right.
Even if you get nothing from it, I think it's like $20 to $40 depending on what area
said 35. You're in.
Yeah. So it's not a huge investment to put an ad on Craigslist. So I mean, and we have hired people from Craigslist. I feel like lately we've been getting most through Indeed and ZipRecruiter, but like I said, it depends on location and stuff. Try them all and see what works and see what you have success with.
I'm going to say
and
this
ask people in your community.
You can't see this because it came through the Q&A. I don't know if y'all can see this, but I actually really like this. Unemployment office, local college boards, and even some high schools. And we were actually, before we got on, we were talking about how, kids these days, and even just, in general, college, like there's different tracks that people are taking. So I love the high school portion because not every kid is going to go to college. So that's a great idea.
Well, and here's another one. You go back to the technical college or the community college where there's an auto program and you go to that instructor. You need to have a relationship with that instructor or that team of instructors anyhow. But you go back to them and say, hey, do you know anybody that graduated 2 or 3 or 4 years ago that might not be happy where they're at? Because a lot of these students stay connected with their instructors long after they've graduated. And that's a great resource as well. Mm-hmm. So, the next question in this is, what does the invitation sound like? And to me, that's really the important part of this. You want this to sound like an invitation because in reality, that is what you're doing. You are inviting someone to join your organization, to work in your company. And what does that invitation sound like? That to me is the most critical element in all of this. Is the problem that I see with most of us when we're out trying to find someone to work for us is we all look the same and we all sound the same. Wanted, automotive technician. Boom, that's it. That doesn't get people's attention.
It's wanted, and then there's a whole list of requirements. There's no why. It needs to be more of an invitation, not just looking for somebody and then right into that list of requirements and qualifications, right?
Well, Sarah, that's a really good point because I hate those requirements, right? Because it says wanted automotive technician, must have 5 years experience, must have own tools, must be ASE. I call those disqualifiers because the minute you create that list, those are things that people will use to disqualify themselves. So when it says must have 5 years experience, the person, a really talented person, looks at that and goes, well, I only have 3 years experience. I better not apply. Must have own tools. I look at that and I go, well, how do I know if I have enough tools? Maybe I don't have enough tools, so I don't apply. Must be ASE certified. What if I'm not ASE certified? What if I was ASE certified and I let them expire? What if I was never ASE certified because I worked in a car dealership and they had a manufacturer certification? So don't use those things because they disqualify people. You may never get the opportunity to talk to the most talented person because you created this list of requirements.
Well, I think the flip side of that, Bill, is in reality, when somebody gives you the resume, how much time are you actually looking at their resume, right? You've just listed off all these requirements. They give you your resume and you basically look at it for 2 seconds and then it's done. You know, like it's just so funny how we hire people.
So Amber, you're exactly right. So I was involved in a webinar a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that came out of that was the company that was putting this on actually did a study because they looked at people's attention span. And so the average person's attention span today is a little over 8 seconds. But then they did a study that got more into how long will someone spend reading a job ad. It's right about 40 seconds. So if you create this job ad that has all this information in it, you're wasting your time because it's not going to get read anyhow. So this is interesting. How does anyone know what it's like to work for your company? I mean, if you think about it, changing jobs is a big deal, right? I'm giving up all the security of what I know in the job I have to go to the unknown. You're talking about people being comfortable, having that comfort zone, right? And it's like, you know, I may not be real happy here, but I know what it's like. I go over there and I have no idea what it's like. What if it's the same as it is here? What if it's not any better? So you need to really think about, how does anyone know what it's like to work for your company? And I think you should get and video record employee reviews. Take your smartphone out, go out to your staff and ask them, why do you enjoy working at this company? And let them tell. It doesn't need to be scripted. It just needs to be their honest view. Now, if you have an employee that says, nah, I'm sorry, I'm not really interested in doing that, that might be telling you something. Right?
I think another part to that too is also exit reviews. If you have employees that are leaving, are you asking, you know, are you doing that exit review and finding out why it is that employees are leaving your company? I think there's a lot to be learned there and a big missed opportunity for us when somebody's leaving.
You're absolutely right. That's a huge opportunity because anything that we can learn from that person who's leaving is our opportunity to make things better, right? You know, so here, there's really not, about a third of the people are saying that they've done this, okay? That they do employee reviews or exit reviews. You know, think about what you could do in your website with a career section. And then in that career section, you could post a video of your employees talking about why they enjoy working in this company. Talk about a social media opportunity. Now, I'm not a social media person, but Sarah, what do you think you could get out of social media if you used those videos of your staff talking about why they enjoy working for your company?
I think it's huge. I mean, because not only is that going to help you with finding new talent, but that also is going to just help your culture and your brand show, and people want to do business where employees are treated well and being taken care of, right? People want to go spend their money with places that take care of their employees. I will say though, if you're going to do this and you're going to record them, don't hand your employee a script, because that, like, we can see that a mile away. Make it as authentic as possible. Let them say their own words. You know, maybe you can kind of give them the topic you want them to talk about, but don't have them read off a written script that's going to come across like cold and robotic. Make it authentic, make it transparent. That's my thoughts on that.
So we're always, as businesses, very concerned about our reputation, right? And now our reputation is out there for everybody because there's the whole online reviews. If you do anything, you know, that anybody's unhappy or upset, the media, they're going to go out and put out a bad review, right? I mean, what's your reputation as an employer? Do you have any idea? I mean, the people that have left there talk nice about you or talk poorly about you, or, what would that be like? And you really need to understand what your reputation is as an employer. Okay. This is a few years back, but we were having some real difficulty in helping a shop get employees. What we found out was they had a reputation in their community of not being a very nice place to work, that the boss was really difficult to work for. So, yeah, he was a nice guy. I'm not saying he wasn't a nice guy. He was a nice guy. He was great with customers, but he just wasn't a nice guy to work for. He did things that people didn't want to tolerate. People didn't want to be part of that organization. Okay, so you need to understand what your reputation is. And if you have any reason to believe that you don't have a stellar reputation as an employer, then you figure out what those things are and work on them. Okay. Well, that's interesting. As just a yes or no question, 83% say yes, they know what their reputation is. And I hope that by knowing what your reputation is, that it's really a stellar reputation. It would be interesting to know if what you believe your reputation is would match what people outside your organization believe your reputation is as an employer. I'll tell you, this was kind of sneaky what we did. What we did was we had a woman call competing shops in this marketplace and say, hey, we're relocating to the area and my husband's been looking for work and he's got an offer from this company. And I'm just curious if, can you tell me a little bit about that company? Is it is it a good place to work? Are they nice people? And that's actually how we learned what their reputation was as an employer. So there's ways to do it. It's a little bit sneaky, but if you need to do that, you need to do that. And, my first clue is if you've got employment ads out there, if you're inviting people to come to work for you and you're not getting responses, it might have something to do with your reputation. So, Sarah, what about this? Are there things that we should be looking at that people are going to expect if they were to come to work for your company?
For sure. And opportunity to grow is one of the number one things. I've heard that so many times on interviews, what are you looking for? Well, and we always ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? And that's a big piece of that is I want to be able to move up. I want to be able to grow. So many people we've talked to are like, I want to own my own business in the next 5 years, so it's having a path to where they can have that opportunity to move up and know they're not just going to get hired and be in one spot for the next 5-10 years. We've already talked about clear, honest, consistent communication, positive environment, uplifting culture, mission and vision that's believable. That goes back to the do what you say you're going to do. Recognition of performance, talked about that a little bit already as well. Work-life balance, that's definitely something that we're looking for. Like I said, is there going to be that flexibility if I need to leave 10 minutes early every Wednesday? Is that going to be a big deal? My kid has blah, 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 being able to be able to, and part of that too is just knowing that they're important. They're not just somebody that's coming in that's just a number to you, that their life outside of work is important, that who they are is important. So these are things that they're looking for a company to provide when they're out there applying.
Because I'm a baby boomer, I think I have the authority on this. I have spent my life making work my life. The people you're going to hire today will not do that. They will not make work their life. That's what work-life balance is about. They are going to make life their priority. And you have to understand that. And you not only have to understand it, you have to appreciate it. So the reality is there's a war for talent, right? There's a much greater demand than there is a supply. And when we hire poorly, we fail. Now, I really think that a lot of the reason that we hire poorly is because we don't do it well, and we don't do it well because we don't do it often enough. And when we do need to do it, we don't do it well because we don't understand what the process should be. We're desperate. And when we're desperate, we don't do things well. Okay. So I'm not suggesting that you need to do it more in order to get enough practice to do it well. But the reality is, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at. The things that you're uncomfortable doing, like some people are not going to be comfortable sitting down and doing an interview. That's just kind of taking them out of their comfort zone. Practice it so that you get comfortable at it. So let's talk about how we do a better job of hiring, because the way we do that is to have a process. And to me, the process starts very simply with a job description. Every position in your company must have a job description. I don't know how you can hire somebody without knowing what the description of the job they're going to do is going to be. So if you don't have job descriptions, start right there. You need job descriptions. And this is something that if you want an idea what a job description should look like, what it should include, we have job descriptions available. In fact, Amber with her follow-up is going to make that available to you. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on job descriptions, but I want you to know that that's the first step in the process. Don't start to hire people if you don't know, if you can't describe what the job is. So it's about the job description. Once I have the job description, now I can create employment ads. Once I have employment ads, I need a resume. I want to know what this person that's interested in coming to my work company is. What's their work history? Where have they been? What have they done? What kind of experiences they've had? I want them to fill out an application. I want to have an application that when they come in on site, they complete that application. Actually, the application is sort of a test. And then think about pre-employment assessments. Pre-employment assessments are critical, whether we're hiring technicians or whether we're hiring service advisors, customer service people, and then the interview. And the interview, of course, is a really critical element to this. And then once you get through the interview and you decide that this is somebody that I want to have part of my organization, you have to make them an employment offer. So let's take some time to go through some of this, okay? Like I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the job description, but the employment ads, I think, are just huge, right? How do you get the attention of the right people? So Sarah, I'm going to give that to you because you've been doing a lot of work with employment ads. You've tried a lot of different things. You're finding, what's working and not working. So share with everybody the things that you're doing with employment ads.
Sure.
And Sarah,
So like I said,
hey Sarah, with that, will you touch on how you filter out the right people? So we did have something that I think is applicable to this point. So, regarding growth and flexibility, a lot of people on the phone are saying that they want growth, but they don't want to put in the effort. So how do you weave through those people, and what are those key things that you're touching on? So I think you'll hit it here, but I just wanted to let you know.
Learn a lot by doing multiple interviews. Because I've definitely done a preliminary 15-minute interview with somebody who I thought was amazing, and then scheduled them for a longer, more in-depth interview and was like, this is not the same person I talked to on Tuesday. Right now on Friday, this is a completely different person. So I think doing those multiple interviews will help you filter out, because you'll learn a little bit more, like, do their responses, ask the same question twice. Do you get the same answer? Are they really giving you who they are? If they're really looking, if they're saying, I want to grow, ask them, so what does that look like to you? What kind of steps are you going to be willing to do to grow into that position, and find out what it is, where they see themselves, and then talk about what that looks like to get there. I did see another comment too, talking about the opportunity for growth being limited. Growth could be not necessarily taking over the store. Growth could be continual education, opportunities to go to training, all those kinds of things as well, is just, growing their skill set, growing their what they do, and getting their ASEs. All of those things are part of growth. It might not necessarily be a different position title that they're looking for. They just want to know that they're being poured into as well, I guess is a better way to say it, and that there's an opportunity to keep learning and keep expanding their knowledge and their skills. So this slide is going to be a lot of things that we use on employment ads, just to give you guys some ideas of things you could incorporate. So like I said, instead of putting hiring and then just a whole list of qualifications, you're kind of selling yourself. You're kind of saying, this is why you want to come work here. Would you like to be part of a team that strives to be the best? Join us. We love to hear new ideas. You will never feel like you don't matter here. Our employees are family. We're focused on hiring and training to add the very best to our team. Work in a fun environment. Work with individuals that have pride in their work, care for their clients and their team. That sounds like somewhere I want to work. This is an opportunity that's challenging yet rewarding career that, you can be proud of and take pride in your work. We're family owned, we're well established. It's a fast-paced environment at the cutting edge of automotive repair. We offer the tools that will help you to fulfill every customer's need and support your growth. No work on weekends. If you guys aren't open on the weekends, use that. Tell people, and not even just no work on weekends, but hey, we believe weekends are your time for your family, your friends, relaxing and recharging. We care about you outside of coming to work. We value and respect our staff and their families. We only work 5 days a week. We encourage further education and building your career path. Opportunity to learn and grow with our business will help you create a lifelong career. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas on that growth idea. Oh, there's a couple more. If you're looking for a new home and the ability to work in a friendly family-owned business atmosphere, this is the place for you. Do you want to make a positive impact in your local community? Join us. If you want to work for and contribute to a well-respected, well-known, and honest automotive shop, we fit that bill. Somebody just asked if we can get a printout of this. I think this will all be added in the email that Amber is going to be sending out. And then I do always typically end the job ad with something like, we can't wait to meet you. We can't wait to have you on our staff. We're so excited to get to know you. Something along those lines.
I think that last bullet is really important, is we can't wait to meet you. And there's so many ways of saying that, but make sure, this to me is all about what I was talking about earlier with the invitation. This sounds inviting. However you use this or whichever of these, what works for you, right? But she's given you a lot of different ideas here. And this sounds inviting. This doesn't sound like, oh, do I have enough tools, or do I have to tell them how many 10mm sockets I lost last year? This sounds like, hey, I should at least check this out. The we can't wait to meet you. I think we had a client that did a social media campaign for hiring, and they were looking for just sort of a shop assistant. And the social media campaign just said, interested in, being around people that have fun at work. And if you like cars, we have cars, we do car stuff. It was just so general, but it said, stop in, have a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and let's talk. And I'm like, wow, and guess what? And it's exactly what people did. We didn't say you had to call or you had to send a resume. All we said was, we'd like to meet you. Stop in, have a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and let's talk.
Something else you can do, add on to that. Do you have any questions about this position? Feel free to text me at this number.
Make yourself available is really important. Not like, well, this is really important, but it's not important enough for you to send me a text or to call me, or, I've had people in the past tell me, I don't want my text, I don't want my cell number out there. They might call me. I'm like, I thought that was the idea. The idea was to get them to call you. Oh yeah, but I don't know when they would call. What difference would it make? It's okay. So there's some great ideas on employment ads. Less is better. All you want to do is get them to either contact you or send you their resume, whatever the case is. So get the employment ad done, do something that gets the right person's attention, and stop making your ad sound like everybody else's ad. For me, if I get their attention, I want their resume. I want them to send me a resume, either drop it off or email it to me or something, but I want to see information about this person, where they've been, what they've done, what is their level of experience, okay? That's what I'm looking for in the resume. Now, I also want them to complete an application. And if they're in the area, the way I like to do this is if I get their resume and I'm interested in learning more about this person, I like to call them up and say, hey, when would it be convenient for you to stop in and complete an application? Now, that might sound redundant because you've already got their resume. What are you going to have them do an application for? But there's several things. The application is if they say, I can be there tomorrow at 3 o'clock, do they show up at 3 o'clock? Are they there at 2:50 or 3:10? Okay. It kind of says something about them. Now, this is my first opportunity to see them. What's their appearance like? Now, I want them to fill out the application at the job site, not send it to them, not have them take it home and bring it back. And the difference being this is a lot of people get help doing their resumes. When they have to fill out an application, it has to come from their memory. And then I can also see, can I read their writing? Do they know correct spelling? Do they know punctuation? All those things come out when they fill out an application. Plus, the other thing about the application is by having them do the application, they're giving me permission to contact their previous employers or educational institutions, and they're also giving me their permission to do a background check. So that's the nice part about the application. And now I can compare the application to the resume. Sarah, you have a different opinion on applications.
I do. To me, I think you're making it too hard. I don't know how many people are gonna, hey, I sent you my resume. Now you want me to come in and do another application? And I understand the points you're making, but I think we need to make it as easy as possible. I do want to comment back to Rachel, who made a comment about being ghosted. I have been ghosted more times in the past 6 months than I can even count anymore. And unfortunately, I think it's just part of the process. If I had a magical answer to know how to avoid that, I wish I could give it to you. But I mean, I do follow-ups. Like I said, text messaging has been the best thing I've come across when somebody just disappears, or, we had a phone interview scheduled and they don't answer their phone. Sending a text message, hey, are you still available today? At least sometimes I hear back. But yeah, and for those of you who don't know what ghosting is, that's just, somebody saying they're going to be there and then not showing up, basically, or just communication just completely stops and you're having communication with them and then poof, they're gone. We've had it happen multiple times, and I wish I had an answer for you, but yeah, I mean, just continuing the communication in their preferred method and then letting it go. If it's not worth your time, let it go and move on.
So the pre-employment assessments, there's a lot of great tools out there to use. Remember this, the pre-employment assessment isn't just to know what they know. The pre-employment assessment will help you understand what they don't know. And there's some really good people that can be hired that you need to know what they don't know, because if you provide training for them in those areas, they're going to be exactly what you want them to be, okay? And then you have to prepare for the interview. Here's the biggie, and we're going to spend some time on this, and we're going to do the best we can to cover all this, but there's a lot of information here in preparing for the interview. So to me, there's things you need to do, like calling previous employers, okay? Now, I know a lot of people won't do that, but because you already have their permission on their application, it makes it much easier to have that conversation with a previous employer. You should check their social networking sites. What are these people like outside of their resume or their application? Do their values match your values? That kind of stuff becomes sort of evident in their social media platforms, okay? Review the application and the resume, see that the information matches. make notes of items you want to discuss. If there's, areas on an application or a resume that don't quite make sense, make sure you make a note so you remember to talk about that. And then you have to write a list of questions. I recommend you have about 20 to 25 questions that you're going to cover in that interview. That's information that you want to know about that individual to do the job you're hiring for. What was that? How did I do that?
I will say, before I do any interview, I write out an outline on paper of the thing. So if there's something that stands out on the resume I want to ask, I kind of shorthand to make a thing and leave some space so I can write next to it. The main questions I want to cover, I kind of put those, I leave some space so that as I'm talking to them, I can write, as we're having that phone conversation, instead of going back and going, what question did I ask? And now why am I writing this? I'm not really sure what this went with. And then that way I make sure I hit all those things that I want to ask them about. So just taking a piece of paper and coming up with an outline before you do that in-person interview or before you do the phone interview, so that you kind of have a guideline to follow.
And know the questions you cannot ask. Okay. There are legal things around what you can and cannot ask. You can't ask somebody their age, those kinds of things. And then have the job description ready. To me, the job description should be the first part of the interview. When they come in for the interview, just give them a copy of the job description and say, take a few minutes and review the job description. Make sure that they understand that this is something they're interested in doing. And after they've had a few minutes to review it, there's one simple question. Is there anything on the job description that you're uncomfortable doing? You need to know that before they get hired. I've had people already look at the job description and go, I don't think that this isn't the job I thought it was. And that's okay. We didn't waste their time and they didn't waste our time. So have the job description ready and then create your list of non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are things that you don't allow. Okay. So, and this is an older example, but it's probably one of the best examples that I've ever had to use. It's like Disney would not employ men that had facial hair. That was a non-negotiable. Well, you can't wait till they get hired and then after they're hired say, oh, you must shave in order to come to work. That has to be done up front in advance of their getting hired. So know what your non-negotiables are. The legal stuff, just real quick, it's just know the federal and state employment laws. Don't ask the wrong questions. Don't make notes on the application. Sarah had a great suggestion. Create your outline, make your notes on your paper because the application, you're required to retain that. Okay. And you want to understand what discrimination is. If you'd ever have a discrimination suit brought against you, they could call the application in as evidence. And so your notes on the application could lead to a discrimination suit. Now, what is discrimination? Discrimination is their ability to do the job as defined by the job description. That's why a job description is so important, because it's all going to be based on their ability to do the job that was defined by the job description. And then just keep it professional. Here, real quick, these are the things that you cannot ask, all right? So why do we interview? Well, we want to gather enough of the right information to determine if they'll add value and make a difference in our work environment. That's what we're after. What are you learning? This is about learning enough about them to know we're going to make a good decision. And you want to ask open-ended questions. So most people, I hope, would know what an open-ended question is, but the definition is they can't be answered with yes or no.
Also,
so here's one of the things.
Oh.
What?
Sorry. I was going to say, and follow-up questions too, but carry on, continue. I'll say it after you're done.
Right. So a lot of times a great question will be, we want to know if somebody's going to have a problem with being tardy. Are they on time for work, right? So a closed-ended question would be, are you ever late for work? Well, they can answer that with yes or no. Did you really learn anything? Not really. So here's how you ask an open-ended question and get what you're really looking for. You say, the last time you were late for work, what was the reason? They can't answer that with yes or no. And now you're going to learn whether they have a problem with being tardy for work or not. Okay. And you got to ask tough questions. Don't just, make it difficult. Ask them questions that are difficult to answer. Make them a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. That's okay to do that. What you really want to do is you want to listen more than you talk. Don't use this to talk about, how great you are, how great your company is. They already know a whole bunch of stuff about your company before they ever showed up for the interview, or they should. Okay. And then watch their body language. So if you're doing in-person interviews, or, we do interviews through a Zoom type meeting or go to webinar type meeting, we get to see them. Okay. That body language is critical. Now, one other tip for you that's not on this slide is have a female involved in the interview process. The reason I say that is for most of us men, as bosses and employers, is we want to get this behind us. We're just trying to get this done. I need somebody, I need them quick. How quick can I get them? And we're ignoring a whole bunch of stuff. And females pay much better attention than we do. They hear things and they see things that we completely ignore. It's not a bad idea to have, in fact, I think it's a great idea to have a female involved in the interview process. Sarah, you had something you were going to add?
So I was going to say follow-up question. So people like to tell you things about themselves without any facts to back it up. I'm a people person. So I always, that's awesome. Can you give me an example of how you're a people person? Or can you tell me a story about da 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 da? Or, just anything like that where you're like, oh, that's a really great thing. I'm a great multitasker. Oh, can you tell me about, the last job that you had to multitask at? What did that look like for you? What kind of tasks were you handling? Get that information and then again, listen more than you talk. I worked at a shop and I would watch my boss do interviews, and the interview was like he was just selling what we do, and he would talk the whole time. He would give them a tour and he would talk the whole time and barely learn anything about who he was interviewing. And then 2 weeks later, he'd be hiring again because that person didn't work out. So listen more than you talk. Sometimes we just take a really long pause and let them continue talking, because if you give them that space to talk, they will typically use it.
So ask about gaps of employment. If you see areas where they weren't employed, what were they doing? Were they incarcerated? Were they on a missionary trip? I mean, I don't know what they were doing, but you should want to know what those gaps were, okay? You absolutely want to know the reason they left a previous employer, because if the reason they give you are things that we do as well, they're probably going to leave us too, all right? Ask questions based on a previous answer, things like Sarah was just giving you examples of. Ask the same question over. I do this a lot. I'll ask a question at the beginning of an interview, and 20 minutes later, I'll ask the same question just to see if I get the same answer.
Mm-hmm.
Present a real situation and how do they respond? Okay. I'll give you an example of one that I like to use a lot, because if you find that person that wants to leave their job and come to work, and so this makes perfect sense. It makes sense for you to hire them. It makes sense for them to come to work for you, and you make them an employment offer, and they accept the employment offer, and they're going to go back to their current employer and give them 2 weeks notice. So when all of this happens, when you give your employer 2 weeks notice and they offer you more money now to stay, what do you do? That's a real world situation. That stuff is happening all the time. In fact, I think there's some people that are out looking for jobs just to get raises. You got to flush that out. And this is a way of doing that. When you create that, when you present that real situation, how do they respond? What's their answer? And then like Sarah was just saying, ask the question and then be quiet and let them talk. Let them talk. Okay. So here's we're going to go through some questions that we would ask in interviews, and not all of them, but some good examples, right? Tell me something your resume doesn't. What's your best attribute? Your worst attribute? What do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? I just asked in the first 5 questions in this interview, I've asked them things about them that have nothing to do with the job. That's what you're trying to learn about the person. You're not trying to learn about their ability to fix cars. Their ability to fix cars, you figured that out in the pre-employment assessment. You figured out if they had the ability to fix cars in their work history, okay? If there was one thing you could change at your last job, what would it be? And everybody's got something. And then you got to follow that up with how would you change it? Because I don't want somebody that can just identify problems. I want people that solve problems, because that's what we're in the business of. Explain the most difficult diagnosis or difficult customer. How did you handle it? Oh, by the way, how did you handle it? I want that story. I'll even follow that up later on with, so if you had that same situation today, what would you do different today? So what did they learn from that experience? What's your most valuable tool? How do you close a sale? If I met your best friend, what would they tell me they like most about you? Boy, that's a great question.
My favorite when we ask people. And I will tell you, for the most part, people like to talk about themselves. Not everybody does, but for the most part. And to me, like on the flip side, thinking if I was going to interview for somebody and they're asking me that, like this person actually cares about me. They're interested in who I am. And so if that's what we're saying in our job ad is that here you're more than just an employee, you're going to be part of the family, represent that in the interview too, right? We actually care about who you are.
Find out what's the best job you ever had and why was it the best job you ever had. Okay. So you get through all those questions and you've decided this is the person you want to add to your team. Now you need to make them an employment offer. And an employment offer should be a document, a written document that explains what you are offering them and when they're going to start and how much they're going to get paid and when they get paid and whether we provide tools or we provide uniforms and laundry service. All that needs to be in your employment ad. But here's the one thing that I want to stress today is that starting pay is not a negotiation. And what I mean by that is this. When somebody comes to you and they want $35 an hour and you believe that they're going to bring the talent that you're looking for to your team, you don't look at it and say, well, maybe I can get them to start for 30. Because when you do that, you have just set the stage for everything for that employee from that point on is going to be a negotiation. If I want to go to training, we're going to have to negotiate. If I want a day off, we're going to have to negotiate. If I want whatever I want is going to be a negotiation. I believe this, that the only person in this entire process that knows how much this person needs to make is them. They're the only person that knows their mortgage or their rent or their car payments or buying groceries or paying the electric bill. They're the only ones that know that. Tell me how much you need to make. My job is to make sure that we are charging enough for the work we do that we can afford to pay you what you deserve to be paid. Don't make starting pay a negotiation. Cover the benefits package.
You do that on the interview, and you do that very well in the interviews, the way you explain, you straight up ask when you find this new job, what is this job going to pay you? And he lets them know, this isn't a negotiation on pay. I need to make sure that if you're the right person for me, that I can pay you what you need. And that's laid out in the interview. And I think it's such a positive response that I've seen from people when you ask that question. And they really start thinking what, some people are just like, oh, well, my last job paid me this. Is that enough? Is that what you need to be making? And like Bill said, they're the only person who knows that number. So.
Well, the other thing that's interesting when you get to talking about paying, you say, well, how much do you need to make? How much is this job going to pay you? And they go, well, what does the job pay? depends upon who we hire. So yeah, it's and it people have a tendency to not want to put a number out there because it's like, oh, I should have asked for more. Maybe I didn't. Oh, geez, they asked for a lot. Maybe I could have got them to work for less. Get all that stuff out of your head. Okay. So the benefits package, oh, here's another one, the starting date. I want to know when they're going to start. How about the 2 weeks notice thing? You know what? I hate the 2 weeks notice. I believe that when you, as an employee, go back to your current employer and give them 2 weeks notice that you're going to be leaving, you've just set the stage for the worst 2 weeks of your life. Because for 2 weeks, somebody's going to be in your head going, are you sure you want to leave? Are you sure you made a good decision? Are you sure you're going to enjoy it over there? We really want to have you stay here. Well, it's kind of late for all that. Shouldn't that stuff been happening long before they went out and started looking for a job? And something that we've done, and we had some success with it, is we've tried to eliminate the whole 2 weeks notice thing. And we've said to people that we've offered jobs, we've made a contingency in their employment offer that if we're making this offer on Friday and you start on Monday morning, there's a $2,000 cash for showing up on Monday morning. Just get rid of you know what? If I'm hiring, I don't need somebody in 2 weeks. I need somebody now. And I don't need somebody to have to wrestle with the decision that they made for an entire 2 weeks before they finally come to work for us. But I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a 2 weeks notice. There's going to be people that you're going to wait for 2 weeks. If that's the case, make sure you stay in touch. Make sure that you're still communicating with them that, hey, how was your day today? By the way, what's your plan for getting your tools over to the shop? Is there anything we can do to help move your tools? Hey, why don't you come by? Our uniformed guy's going to stop here and leave some samples. Let's have you come by and make sure we get you sized to get your uniforms, ordered so they're here when you start. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that. Have them fill out some of the paperwork in advance of the first day of employment. So if there is going to be a 2 weeks period that we're going to wait for somebody, make sure you stay in touch with them. Here's the big thing. Do not make an employment offer to anybody that doesn't fit all the qualifications that you're looking for. Don't ever just settle for the best available. They're not exactly what I wanted, but they're close. This isn't horseshoes. Make sure this person checks all the boxes. This is the individual with the talent you're looking for to add to your team. Never settle for the best available. Keep looking before you let that happen. And I see this happen way more often than I'd like to admit, that shops, businesses will just take the best of what was available at the time.
So Bill, can I ask you a question? Because I think it's great and I've been holding out. I think that's a perfect time. And I know you have your processes, and I think there's step-by-step processes to weed out the people, right, that you don't want. But how do you handle people who say they're at a certain skill level, right? So you've looked at the resume, they've done the application, those types of things. These are the reasons why you're doing those, to hopefully weed those people out. Let's say they get in the position, they say they're a certain level, you believe that they were a certain level, but then they start doing the job and they're clearly not that level. What do you do?
As soon as we recognize that, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to go, look, the conversation is something like this. You led me to believe that you would be capable of doing this many hours of work. So if we look at flagged hours, for instance, if they lead me to believe they can flag 30 hours in a 40-hour work week, then that's what I expect to see in a relatively short time. I'm not going to see that in their first day of work necessarily, but by the second or third week, I should be seeing that. So the conversation is going to be, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing that's not allowing you to flag those 30 hours that you told me you would be able? So I'm going to start with that. Help me understand if there's something we're doing here. So if there's something in our internal processes, okay, And if it's not, then I'm going to have a conversation about, maybe you need some training. What training can we get for you to help you? Okay. The other thing is the way we start people out in our plan, our employment offer is they're going to get X dollars per hour for the introductory period. They're not going to be under the pressure of high performance or flagging a lot of hours. But we are, through that introductory period, we are assessing their work behavior, their skill sets, their knowledge, okay, their ability to perform work, high quality work. And at the end of that introductory period, we're going to move them into a performance-based pay plan. And so part of that conversation is, if you continue at this rate, you won't make any money at this shop. That's not going to be good for you, and it's not going to be good for me. So let's figure out a way to make this work. Or maybe it was just a bad decision, and maybe it's time to part ways.
I think those pre-employment assessments too, like we've done an interview with somebody who was super confident. Oh yeah, I can fix anything. I can do everything. Da, 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 da. We went and looked at the pre-employment assessments. I think it was through Indeed that had a bunch of automotive technical ones, and their scores were awful. So it's kind of like, use those things to your advantage, use the tools that you have to learn as much as you can before making that offer. Ask the question, give them a situation and ask them to explain the process of how they would go about that repair. Get as much information as possible.
Yeah, and give them real world stuff. Like, for instance, if you're going to hire somebody that's going to be doing brakes and steering, suspension, and basically undercar stuff, then give them some real world situations. So I've got a Ford F-150, give them a year, make, model, Ford F-150. We need to do front brakes. We're going to do pads, rotors, calipers, and flush the brake system. I'm going to give you that car at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. What time will it be done? So don't ask them how many hours it'll take them to do the work, because they get that. They see that all the time. They see their flagged hours. They go, oh, you guys sold this for 1.5 hours. Oh, you sold this for 3 hours. You sold this. Now, when you say, I'm going to give you that car at 1 o'clock, what time will it be done? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Right? Those are the tough questions. It seems simple. It seems easy, but that's not in the technician's world. In a technician's world, it's just like, give me a car. How many hours am I going to flag? Give me a car. How many hours am I going to flag? It's very different when you say, I'm going to give you this at 1 o'clock. What time will it be done? So if he says it's going to be done in a reasonable amount of period, then I'm going to say, so tell me how you're going to do this front brake job. And let him tell you the process that he uses to do front brakes. And then see if he does the stuff that you're looking for. Like when he's all done and he puts the wheels on, did he torque the wheels? Or do you just assume he had torqued the wheels? So
I think it's so important too to note, and there's some more comments, and I think they're important. And I think it's also important for you guys to follow up with them, and I'll share the chat. But I think, when you look at return on investment, time is such a big, prudent thing that you have to think about the time that you put in beforehand to make sure that these candidates are the right people, so that you're not wasting the time, the resources, and the money. And so it may seem like a very discouraging thing, and all of those things that you're doing in the interview process, but in the end, it is so important for your business.
Yeah. But you have to
otherwise
remember,
you're going to just be,
when we're involved in the process, people are going through at least 3 interviews. I see shops all the time that, will get an applicant, they'll have them come in and do 1 interview and go, yeah, I made him an offer. You made him an offer. Yeah, I think he'll work. Well, he probably doesn't.
Yeah. It's not shocking when he doesn't work out.
Yeah. And so you really want to make sure that you know as much as you can. And it sounds like, yeah, this is long and drawn out, but if you want to do it well and make sure you're finding the best, and I want to do this as few times as possible. I don't want to do the one thing that I hate to hear from a shop is, Well, if I'd have known 6 months ago what I know about him today, I would have never hired him. Why is he still here? Well, it's better than nothing. What does that say about your company? You're putting better than nothing out there. You're not putting the best out there. So a couple real quick things, people that are candidates that do not get selected, let them know. Don't let them hang out there wondering, am I going to get this job or is there still an opportunity? Know what you need to retain for records. And it's different in every state. So that's why you need to know your state and federal employment laws. But there's a requirement for some record retention. And the announcement to your staff, make sure they know that you've hired somebody, this position's been filled. The new person is showing up on Monday or next Monday, okay? Don't let the new person show up and everybody's like, well, why are they here? Who are they? Okay? Orientation is big too. Don't forget this, right? Make sure that you're prepared for this new person when they're coming in. They need to be greeted by the person that hired them, welcome their facility tour, introduction tour, let them meet all the team members and who are they and what are their jobs here. Take them to lunch. My goodness, give the people that they're working with, some money and take this person to lunch. I've got to learn a lot about them through the hiring process. Now you need to get to learn something about them. Take them to lunch and have something for them to do. And that's not reading the employee manual. Actually, don't let them go home at the end of the day and their significant other goes, wow, how was the first day at work? And they go, yeah, I don't know. They didn't have anything for me to do. I don't know why they hired me. I mean, I don't, right? And then provide the need to know information if they need passwords or, that kind of thing. Make sure they have that, a go-to person if they need help with something. Who should they go to? Really make them comfortable. Make this easy for them. Back to Amber, your question about the person that maybe they're not who we thought they were. Another thing to consider is doing working interviews.
Yeah.
If they're available to come in, have them come in and spend a day with your team to see, hey, how do they fit in? What are they capable of? I mean, that's another thing you can do a lot of times with some of these people to find out how do they do. Okay. Think about who you're hiring. They are smart. They're better informed than any generation ever before, and they can spot BS a mile away, and they have choices. And they know it. You need to keep all that in mind as you're going through this process. They do have choices. They have choices. You better figure out how to make your store the best choice. This is really about what should happen after they're hired. You're going to make a commitment to your team that you're going to provide an environment and culture where your internal business partners, that's a fancy word for employees, can be more effective, engaged, and fulfilled. And I think this is the most telling one. No one should go to their job feeling like they made a bad choice. When you hire somebody, I don't want them 3 months later struggling to get out of bed in the morning because they feel like I made a bad choice. I should have never left the job I had. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Okay. Sarah, what about managers?
What? You just cut out.
Oh, what about managers? Stop
What you're saying,
managing.
but good managers manage, great managers coach.
What's the difference? People want to be in an environment where they're not being managed. People want to be in an environment where they feel like there's someone there to help them, coach them, give them guidance, okay? And win the war for talent. When you do all the things you need to do this correctly, you will win the war for talent. And training breeds confidence, and confidence breeds results. And that's why you're here today. This is about training. This is about sharing information. This is about helping you become more confident, because when you're more confident, you get results.
Mm-hmm.
I know this was fast and I know this was furious, and we would love to hear from any of you. So, there's my cell phone number, my email, there's Sarah's cell phone number, there's her email. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. If it's tomorrow, if it's next week, if it's 6 months from now, if you go, hey, I remember those two from that, maybe they could help me with this. We'd love to try. So
Absolutely.
don't be afraid to reach out to us. And for AutoLeap, there's a fall promotion. And
Yeah.
Amber, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, I do. So just, if you're not on the phone and you're not on AutoLeap, you're using a different shop management system, you're curious about AutoLeap, the ways we can help, attend a demo and we will send you a Amazon gift card. So that is it. I do want to say there's another question, and I think it's a really good message to Bill. Is it acceptable to have a short lull of slow business as you hire somebody?
Yes, it is. I would rather have that lull in business until I find the right person than to hire the wrong person thinking that that's going to keep my business on track, because they can do more damage in a short time. So I'd rather be, reduce staff and reduce business a little bit and maintain our quality and take care of our very best customers. Yes, absolutely. That is acceptable.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned, return on investment, it literally is. I know, like, the time that you take to do something seems like you don't have the time, you're wasting money, but in the long-term trajectory of the success of your business, it goes a long way. And it just, everything takes work. And I think we mentioned it before, people nowadays don't want to put the effort in. Well, what does it say when you just hire somebody off the bat because you need it? You have to put the effort in to get the results that you're looking for. And it's hard work and sweat and equity. All of it is what it takes to have a business.
Amber, you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make, and I hope this is okay, but I'm going to make a shameless plug for our hiring management program.
That is okay. I will let you.
We do what we do because it allows business owners continue to do what they do well. So what we know is a lot of business owners aren't good at hiring, or they won't make the time to get better at hiring. So we're taking all of that off their plate. We're writing the employment ads. We're posting the employment ads. We're reviewing all the resumes. We're doing the interviews. In our program, nobody gets to an employer until they've been through at least 2 interviews. They're vetted. They get the summary of our interviews with our recommendations of whether they should proceed with this person or not. And if it's somebody that we recommend they proceed, those are the only people that they're going to talk to. So when you think about it, the whole hiring process is sort of overwhelming. Where do I find the time to write an employment ad? Where do I find the time to monitor Indeed and ZipRecruiter and Craigslist? I've got 30 resumes to look at. Where am I going to find the time to look at 30 resumes? We do that for you. We look at 30 resumes. Out of the 30 resumes, we find you 2 or 3 or 4, whatever that number is, that meet the qualifications of what you're looking for in your job. So don't feel like you have to, take this all on yourself. There are resources out there to help you. And if there's a way that we can do that, we'd love to be that resource.
Yeah, and I think it's also really nice to say, all of those things that you do, maybe it's just 1 or 2 of those things that a shop needs to take off their plate, right? As a business owner, don't feel, and I think that's so wonderful. And that's the reason why we do these webinars, and there are free resources, because there are so many outlets for help of your business out there that we're allowing you to see that you have access to. And there are people out there that really know how to do these things and do them well. You cannot be an expert at everything, right? You cannot be a tech and manage your shop. You cannot be a manager and manage the shop well. Like, you have to be able, and we said it before, I think it's incompetence in those lists. That's like, it's letting go of your ego and allowing it to be okay that you cannot do everything, period. There are people out there that want to help you. And I'm so glad that we had you on, because I think I'm just shocked that people have stayed on for an hour and a half almost. So I really, really appreciate it. And I keep getting feedback that our webinars need to be longer. So obviously this has just told me they need to be longer. So somebody asked about if this will be available to watch over. Absolutely. It will be. You will get an email probably tomorrow once the recording renders and everything. You'll get an email follow-up. If you do not get that, reach out to myself, Bill, Sarah. We will get that for you. The fall promo, somebody asked me about it. Honestly, you can have them email me, or you can just go to the AutoLeap website. It doesn't matter that it's specific to this webinar. It's running through fall till the end of September. So it will be available to everybody. So I really appreciate that. Bill, Sarah, I have to say, you guys consistently bring some awesome content, and we really appreciate it. And if you're also looking, if you don't follow up with them now, the other resource too is attending events in the industry. They speak at a lot of those, but these things are recorded. But reach out to them. I highly, highly, highly suggest you reach out to Bill and Sarah. Of all of the training institutes that I work with and partner with, they really care. I mean, everybody cares about your business, but they really want to tailor to you and your business and get to know you. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing about also hiring people, and the message about your ad of, we want to know you. At the end of the day, everyone wants to be heard. They want to be listened to. They want you to get to know them. And that's how you cultivate really good businesses, is creating that environment. So.
And we would love to see you in person. So Sarah's going to be at ASTE in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow, she'll be in North Carolina at ASTE. I will be in Michigan at the Auto Value Expo. So we're both doing classes at those shows. And then at the 1st of November, we'll be at Apex, and we're doing a class at Apex. So we'd love to see you in person as well. So if you get to one of the shows, you see us or get in our class, please let us know that, you met us through AutoLeap as well.
Yes.
If you didn't catch it, we love to talk. So don't be afraid to come up and say hi to.
I love that. I love that. And sometimes AutoLeap has drinks in their booth, and we will cater to those conversations. So not always over drinks, just over a good conversation. So I really appreciate everybody that tuned in. Bill, Sarah, your expertise is always appreciated. Please do reach out to them if you have any more questions. I know that we didn't answer everything. So I will make personal introductions to those that have requested it. A survey will go right out after this when I close it. And I will send you a gift card for filling that out, because your feedback is priceless to us. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon. I appreciate the conversation and everything that you do for the industry.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.